fellow cyborgs, and welcome to a very ginormous book haul. Well, I say very ginormous based on my standards, previous standards, and especially since I did not intend to film any book hauls on this channel this year, but by the rest of BookTube standards, not that ginormous at all. But you should know in advance that this is going to be a long, slow-paced, fun video, so if you need to pause this and get a hot beverage or a cold beverage or a snack or something, or if you want to come back to this later when you're in your gym jams after work and you have half an hour or something to spend with me, or if the idea of this video completely disinterests you, why don't you watch some of my old, embarrassing yet very earnest videos on my channel? 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 21. Since my last book hauls, the books I purchased in Scotland, I have acquired more than 21 books. Why, you may ask? Why not is my response. I am super excited to share with you these new books in my life. They're ones that I'm very, very, very excited to read. Also, they're ones that I think reflect my changing book tastes. As you know, BookTube has a way of making its impression on you, and one thing that BookTube has done for me is let me know of some of the fiction in genres that I find scary, i.e. literary fiction. I find literary fiction this huge ocean full of some lovely things and a lot of things that I would not want to waste my time reading. A couple of the booktubers, of which I'm avid fans, have given me some guidelines for starting in literary fiction, and so a lot of the things here will be those. Some things are YA. I bought quite a few poetry books as well, and then there were a couple recommendations and pre-orders. Are you excited? All right. I've been really eager to share all of these with you. So let's get hoppin'. First, I have to show you 2 volumes of poetry by Margaret Atwood, that being Interlunar and Morning in the Burned House. Margaret Atwood is a Canadian national treasure, and I have read A Handmaid's Tale, I have tried to read Cat's Cradle, but somehow I don't love her yet. And mind, I haven't given her much of a try. I've only done 1.5 of her books. However, I enjoy poetry, and I know she is an avid poet, and thought maybe her poetry would be a nice gateway into me discovering how awesome Margaret Atwood is. Therefore, these purchases. I've already read Interlunar. I actually read it aloud in a British accent to my friend when she was visiting me, because stuff like that happens when your friends visit you, and I really enjoyed it. There was a whole section of books having to do with snakes, and maybe, metaphorically men then, because, penises. I haven't read this one yet, but this one is like one of her most famous collections, I believe. I don't know. It's what it claims, I think. Anyway, so I'm very excited to get into this one, and I think that Margaret Atwood's poetry was a really good idea for me. This is the selected poems by the Brontes, and this not only includes the very famous Emily, Charlotte, and Anne, but also their brother Patrick. I guess back in the day in the Bronte household, what did you have to do except for sit around not talking to each other and writing moody, in Emily's case, poetry? I say this, it sounds like I'm mocking them, but I'm really excited to read this, and I think it's really neat that Patrick got included, because the Brontes were not the happiest family at all. All of them died really young. I think that Emily killed herself, but she definitely didn't die happy. That's for sure. And I know that is it the Professor or Villette? One of the not Jane Eyre Charlotte Bronte novels kind of mirrors her own life, where she had an affair with a professor or something and it went sour, and yeah, so the Brontes, not happy people. Ergo, lots of subject material for them poetry. So I have been thinking of picking up a volume of Emily Bronte's poetry because I'm a little goth at heart. I mean, look at my makeup today. Just picture less stripes and less well done makeup, and you know what I looked like when I was 14 and totally rocking the goth scene. But when I saw this relatively short collection of all 4 of the Bronte's poetry, I said, I will have you, and I did. Haven't read it yet. I'm excited to. And finally, on the poetry front, in case you were completely bored, I picked up Ariel by Sylvia Plath. I believe these are the last poems that she wrote before she killed herself. That I know for a fact. Ended up head in the oven. Poor thing. So Sylvia Plath and I have read a few of her poems before. I read the one that's got Air Doctor in it. I don't know if it's actually called Air Doctor. I probably should have figured that out before I got on camera. Oh well. So I found this cute little copy in a used bookstore. It needed a home. It was only $4, and I was like, yes, Plath, you will be on my bookshelf, and I will read your poems, and I will pretend that we're sipping wine together and just talking about our feelings, because that's kind of what you needed, didn't you, Sylvia? Anyway, so a lot of the purchases that happened to accumulate to the 21 books, those poetry ones were an exception because I bought them in store, but a lot of them were purchased on Book Depository because I have recently come to learn about this magnificent yet financial sucking website. I feel like I can purchase from them because they're not Amazon. So yeah, a lot of the purchases happened on Book Depository. I think the first one was spurned by the YouTube Booktubeathon, which I did not participate in because I had visitors and I thought it would be super rude to be like, sorry guys, I need to read now, go have fun in your room. Booktubeathon gave me a 10% off Book Depository code, so I totally took advantage of that. Now, I bought 3 YA books with that discount, but I bought a book that was not included on their 100 books list, and it was Uprooted by Naomi Novik. This is a new book, new sci-fi fantasy book, questionably YA, that is sweeping the book world at the moment. Naomi Novik is famous for her Temeraire novels, which are alt history Napoleonic Wars with Dragon books. They're amazing. This Uprooted is a loosely based Beauty and the Beast fairy tale retelling in a second world Poland, and the book starts off with Agnieszka knowing that her friend is going to be chosen to live with the dragon, this reclusive sorcerer who protects them from the evil noxious wood. And yet, when the choosing ceremony comes around, guess who actually gets to go live with the dragon? And by gets to, I mean it is made to. You're right, it's Agnieszka, not her friend. I picked this up because Beauty and the Beast retelling, and then it is also the monthly reading picks of the Sword and Laser book club and the Vaginal Fantasy book club, which I am a member of, though I don't read every month, and I thought this would be perfect. I could totally be, involved, community stuff, things, internets. I have already read Uprooted, and I gave it 4 stars. It was a really fun ride. Agnieszka was a really believable character who had really believable character development. I really liked that. I thought that the Beauty and the Beast retelling wasn't heavy-handed, which is nice because sometimes it can be. And I thought that the dragon was beastly enough in a non-fuzzy manner, which is great because most of the time people don't get that creative with how they're going to make the Beast into a believable Beast character, especially if they don't want him to be fuzzy. I'm really looking forward to the drunk discussions that will happen on Vaginal Fantasy Book Club. Next up is More Than This by Patrick Ness. I have read A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness and it made me cry my eyeballs out, and I need to buy my own copy. This is a standalone by his. I am interested in reading the Knife of Never Letting Go series. I can't remember what the series is called. But it is a trilogy, and I've got a lot of books, I've got a lot of series I've already started, so I thought dipping into Patrick Ness's more full-length YA novels, this might be a great place to start. More Than This, from what I understand, starts with the death of the main character. I'm diggity down. Next up is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I have been wanting to buy this for ages. I have a feeling this is going to be adorable and wonderful, and also it's got cover illustrations by Noelle Stevenson. Check down below for my Nimona review. She wrote and illustrated that as well. So this was on the list of 100 Booktubeathon getting 10% off whatever books thing, and I said, oh, perfect. Take my money. And then another Rainbow Rowell. This is Attachments. I recently watched a video by Ashley B. Reeds. I believe I got her handle right. And she compared this to You've Got Mail, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. Also, if you enjoy the movie You've Got Mail and you haven't seen the original The Shop Around the Corner with the Jimmy Stewart and Margaret somebody, you need to see that. It is adorable, a little Christmas movie that doesn't hit you over the head with Santa. Anyway, so I love You've Got Mail. Rainbow Rowell, This is so similar idea. These two women in a workplace are exchanging emails, and the IT guy is supervising the work emails to make sure there isn't any like funny business happening, and then falls for one of the gals. And I'm just like, ding. Okay, take my money. So I'm going to be jumping into this pretty soon, I think. I think I'm going to need a fluffy read after some of the stuff I've been reading, and I think this is going to be plenty fluffy. I recently purchased the Everyman's Library edition of Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials. This is a trilogy, starting with The Golden Compass, then The Subtle Knife, then The Amber Spyglass. I have read The Golden Compass before and I didn't like it. And I didn't like it because I was reading it for a children's lit class in college, and I was resentful of the fact that I had to spend more than 45 minutes reading a book of children's literature. Now, this is one of Jen Campbell's and Holly from The Library at the Edge of the World's favorite book series ever. Not even children's lit, just ever. And apparently they reread them quite often, and the rereadability is just astounding. It's so layered that the more you read them, the more you enjoy them. Which intrigues me, because you kind of, just like when you're buying a board game, you want to make sure that board game has replayability. If you are buying a book and you tend to reread books, you would like to know that there's a rereadability with these books. So I was intrigued and I decided, this sounds too good to be true, I better test it out. Now, as I said, I have already read The Golden Compass. Whilst I was in airports and stuff a few weeks ago, I started rereading The Golden Compass and got to page 130 effortlessly. I feel like this is going to be a smart choice and a lovely journey. I'm having some issues with Lyra, but we'll get into that later. Next is All Dogs Go to Kevin by Dr. Jessica Vogelsang. This is a recommendation, a thrust upon recommendation from my father. He apparently used to work with the father of the author. This is a veterinary memoir. He said that he thinks I would like it because it reminds him of Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by Caitlin Doughty, a memoir about the funeral industry, which I absolutely adore, made him read it. So he's kind of tit for tatting me. And also because Dr. Jessica Vogelsang is very introverted, and I'm very introverted. So at least we have, what voice was that? So at least we have that common ground of connection. I don't like dogs, but I don't hate animals generally, so I am proud and happy to give this a go. And then it'll be a father-daughter book club. Father-daughter book club. Father-daughter book club. Father-daughter blah, 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 blah. You're never weird on the internet. Almost. By Felicia Day. This is Felicia Day's newly released memoir about her life and how she became the, Queen of the Geeks is how people refer to her, though she doesn't refer to herself that way, I think she probably should. I pre-ordered this to support my lady face. Felicia Day is probably my number one best friend who doesn't know I exist. I have a list. It's extensive and creepy. I haven't read this yet. It's full of ridiculous pictures that make me feel really good about my childhood. I also pre-ordered the audiobook, and I'm tempted to wait and listen to the audiobook version first because I feel like Felicia Day reading this is just going to be perfect. Perfect comedy. The Book of Dreams by Catherine M. Valenti. I don't know what this is about. I read the dust jacket blurb, and it seems to be about a woman who's exiled on a mountain, and then it has to do with different philosophies like Buddhism, Greek mythology, mathematics. It might be a discourse on solitude. I don't know. And frankly, I don't care, because Catherine M. Valenti's writing style makes my heartstrings flutter. It's just beautiful, and I will try anything she puts down to paper. And I found this tucked away at this random little bookstore where I live, in Canada, on an island. It was kind of intense finding it. In fact, I triple checked that this was the same Catherine M. Valenti, because obviously there's more than one who spells their name that way and has the same middle initial and everything. Anyway, this is just a small little thing, which is lovely. I'll probably get to this very soon. I'm super excited to try another Valenti, considering that when I tried Deathless, it was a 6 out of 5 stars, and so I'm excited to see what else she can give me in her adult sector of writing. Here we have A Portable Shelter by Kirsty Logan. I pre-ordered this per Jen Campbell's advice because it was a limited print run of this hardcover, gorgeous hardcover edition, which is published published by a really small Scottish publisher. As I mentioned in my double book review, this is about a couple who's expecting a child, and they have sworn to tell the child only truths. However, they both can't resist telling the child tales of Scottish folklore, and so they find ways to sneak doing that. I didn't realize at the time, but this is a short story collection that also does what I say as far as the overarching narrative, which I'm really excited about because I read, as you know, The Rental Heart and Other Fairy Tales, which is her first short story collection, and gave it 3 stars. Read The Gracekeepers, gave it 4 stars, and I feel like this might be a nice jam between Gracekeepers sort of feel and storytelling, but in the short form as in The Rental Heart. So needless to say, I'm excited to read this. Sticking with the Scottish vein is The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie by Muriel Spark. So this is a classic Scottish novel. It was adapted into a film version, obviously, with Maggie Smith as Miss Jean Brodie. The character Miss Jean Brodie is theoretically, maybe mysteriously related to Deacon Brodie, a man whose double life inspired Robert Louis Stevenson to write Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So this is a Scottish book very much steeped in the Scotland that I experienced and adored on my vacation. It is a small little baby thing, and so I'm going to read it. Umbria and Shadow by Patricia A. McKillop. This is my personal book club's pick for the month of August. I have already read this, gave it 4 stars. This is a book about Umbria, the city, and its magical second shadow self, and the court intrigues and politics that happen after the Prince of Umbria dies and leaves behind a child heir, a tavern wench mistress, and a questionably albino bastard nephew. The main villain in this is called the Black Pearl, which is just yo ho, yo ho. Patricia A. McKillop is a beautiful writer. If you want to go on a slow, meandering journey through court politics and magic and shadows and awesome characters, try this one. The Mischief of the Mistletoe by Lauren Willig. I have already read this book, however, I did not have my copy. This is a Christmas themed book. It is a little spy mystery set in the Victorian era, I believe, whose main character's name is Turnip, and he's the kind of slapstick character in the rest of the series, and the fans just adored his weird clumsiness so much that they shouted at Willig that he needed his own book and his own romance, and this be it. And it is adorable. And now I have my own copy, so I won't have to search out one from the library when December rolls around and I need some festive cuteness in my brain space. The 100-Year House by Rebecca Mackay. I picked this up at my local bookstore. It was on one of them display tables that I never really pay heed to, but I saw the beautiful cover and I read the back, which sounded awesome, and I said, all right, fine. So this is a story that surrounds Laurelfield House. The back says it is a generational saga told in reverse. The first section takes place in 1999 at the cusp of the millennium with the most recent generation of Laurelfield, and then it takes you back in time, 1955, 1920, and 1900, back from when the house was just recently no longer an artist colony to when it was in its heyday as an artist colony to when it was built, and all of the mysteries that surround the Devore family who've lived there throughout the century. I am halfway through this book, super enjoying it. At first, the first page hooked me in, but then as I was reading the first few chapters, I was getting a little bored, but then chapter 10 rolled around, and it is a poem, and I was just like, sold! You got me. Okay. You nailed. You got it. So I have been thoroughly enjoying the chapter since. The characters are not particularly likable, but really intriguing anyway, and I can't wait to go back in time because I'm a sucker for things that are back in time. So yeah. Read it. Mercedes from Mercy's Bookish Musings and Jen from Jen Campbell are the 2 booktubers that I think I kind of gel with as far as what they like to read. as far as the booktubers I've experienced so far. And I have 2 picks, one from each of them, that I purchased that I think I'm really going to enjoy. Both of these booktubers adore Murakami, but Norwegian Wood is Mercedes' favorite book of all time? No, not of all time, but her favorite Murakami, a great place she recommends to start with Murakami. Murakami is a Japanese author, very famous, and very famous for his magical realism in his novels. This, however, does not have any magical realism in it, but I trust Mercedes as far as a starting place for Murakami, and I can't wait to dip my toes into some translated Japanese fiction. The Stone Gods by Jeanette Winterson. Jeanette Winterson is one of Jen Campbell's favorite authors, and she normally recommends people to start with Orange is Not the Only Fruit, which is a kind of fictionalized memoir about growing up, happening to like people of the same sex in a highly, highly religious household and the tensions that evolve from there. Now, as much as I generally trust Jen Campbell's advice, that sounds really depressing. I really didn't want to start there. The Stone Gods, however, sounds freaking fantastic. It is set in the future, following humanity, where they kind of just keep destroying planets and keep, getting new ones. They apparently have figured out how to be, in essence, immortal, and slowly find more and more youthful appearances more attractive, to the point where they're kind of all pedophiles, except for they're actually adults, but I don't know. Haven't read it yet. It sounds wicked twisted, and it's shortish, and the cover is amazing, so I said, done. I Am a Cat by Soseki Natsumi. You may remember in one of my Scottish book hauls that I talked about how I purchased this from Amazon, but saw it in the Edinburgh bookshop, and blah blah blah, memories. Well, this is the thing. It is another Japanese translated fiction. This is from the point of view of a street kitten, and apparently it is just a social commentary from the viewpoint of this cat, told in 3 volumes. It's a bit hefty, but how could I say no to Japanese cats? How? I didn't, is how. A Room of One's Own and The Voyage Out by Virginia Woolf. Virginia Woolf, guys. Okay, so you may Virginia Woolf. I never thought that I would want to read a book by Virginia Woolf. The day has come. Well, not today. Soon. I recently watched The Hours, the movie adaptation of the novel by Michael Cunningham. It has Nicole Kidman playing Virginia Woolf, Julianne Moore playing a 1950s housewife, and Meryl Streep playing the modern day Mrs. Dalloway, so to speak. So the cast is why I watched the movie. The movie was awesome. The movie gave me some insight into Virginia Woolf's life, if he wasn't completely making it up. And she's interesting. I like her. She sounds really interesting. And I want to be in her headspace a little bit. So Room of One's Own is a feminist essay about the idea that women need to have literally a room of one's own if they're going to be able to create and have space to create in such a male-dominated world. I am a creative person, and this idea intrigues me. I am also a feminist, because who would want to admit to not being a feminist? Connotations aside, people, it means you want equality of the sexes. Why would you not want equality of the sexes? Rant over. Okay. And then The Voyage Out is her first novel, which also has to deal with a woman's place in a society that is patriarchal. So, it's not a baby book, but I feel like it's a nice place to start with Virginia Woolf. I feel like I have a better understanding of where she's coming from, if not what she's doing, because I know she did some experimental work. And I am willing to give her a try. So willing that I bought a book. So that says something, doesn't it? It says something. What it says, I don't know, but it's something. I'm not going to hold up that stack right now. If you were waiting for that, I'm very sorry. I'll hold up the pretty blue books, though. There! It's artistic! There you have it. I hope you enjoyed your cup of tea, beverage of any kind, snack of any kind, pajamas of any kind, whilst you were watching me haul with you. I hope you enjoy the artistic blue books. I don't know. I'm a weirdo. Please use the space in the comments down below to inform me of your recently hauled book, or any of the books that I showed you that have particularly piqued your interest. Thank you for watching and spending this time with me, and until next time, continue to be lovely. 21 books. Popcorn kernel. F. Ugh. Dun, 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 dun. Waiting for people to be quiet. For people to be quiet. Uncanny book dance.